What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for March 7th, 2022. Star Citizen makes a single river, and everybody is losing their minds over it. But for me, Reputation looks like it's really going to start shaping the way we play the game. And honestly, I have a serious question for you guys about the way I make this series. All that and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week and put it into one video and throw my opinions in there, whether you like them or not. And I do live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/SaltEMike every day but Monday, so I can get this video out to you guys starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time. So if you guys want to hang out, stop by, say hello, that is the best place to do it. I also have a second channel, SaltEMike 2. If you haven't yet, check that out, top right corner. And yeah, we got a lot to get through today, so let's start out with the monthly report. And AI, they just talked about coffee vendors a little bit, but more importantly, AI tech has a lot of updates. So it seems like they're adding more tools for missions that sound like the mission givers that we have now getting some updates. I don't really know exactly what they're talking about here, but this stuck out to me, and I'm not 100% sure what it means for us as people who play the game. For AI features, they're still working on giving ships the ability to land anywhere, and for me, this is a monumental pillar of what Star Citizen needs to be, and I can't wait for this, so the more work that goes into it, the more excited I get for it. Character art. They worked on a subscriber flight suit, which is like, okay, but then they talked about a salvage backpack, and I can't remember them showing any concept art of any salvage backpacks or anything like that. Let me know in the comments down below if they have, but for me, in my head, I just have like a vacuum bag pack thing stuck in my head, like Ghostbusters maybe even, like that's just what I'm thinking there. Then UK ship art. The Hull A is finalized, most of it, and I think we could definitely expect it for 317. The Scorpius is in final art, and the Banu Merchantman is white box complete. So no more white blob in updates. I think we're going to starting to see a lot of detail on the Banu Merchantman. Then for the US team's ship art, Drake Vulture is finishing up. We saw a lot about that. They're creating a number of ship paints. So we've seen a white ship paint on the ISCs recently. Surprise, surprise. Ship paints seem to be like their little upselling feature. So working on those is obviously important to them. A lot of work is going into the Corsair, and the interior is going into final art, it looks like. Engine. Most of this stuff is over my head, as always. But they did talk about soft bodies, which I believe is like the cloth that was covering the vehicle at the 2019 Sitcon demo. That's right, it's 2022, I forgot. Character weapon features. They talked a lot about the multi-tool and setting up for salvage. So it looks like we'll be getting both ship-based and FPS-based salvage, unlike mining where they came separate over time. Then the most important thing I've seen in a long time is they appear to be looking into Positional Desync. So PvPers hate this. If you play with any other people, you're not going to like this. So yes, it's been a problem in the game for years, but in the last year, it seems to have become significantly worse. And I wonder if that's because servers are staying up for longer, therefore becoming more desynced, right? Like, stability is a good thing, but stability also brings to the surface problems that we may never have seen before, and perhaps this is one of those, and now they may have the ability to figure out how to resolve it. So cross our fingers on this one. I'm not holding my breath, but any effort put into positional desync is a good thing for everybody. Gameplay features. More polish on refueling, but they also mentioned that they're going to work on the engineering gameplay stuff that we saw, I think, a year ago now with Dan Truffin. The little, like, power and then the lines and all that stuff. It was a Hammerhead that they showed, right? Location teams. They are actively going from the concept art that we saw in a recent ISC to creating actual derelict settlements. And they're also learning the mission system and how that works so they can populate them with gameplay. Again, Montreal is awesome because they are everything in one package, where it seems like the UK and the US seem incredibly disjointed when making gameplay features, and Montreal just doesn't. They just seem like a well-oiled machine already, while the other teams are jumping into, oh, we got to go over here and do Squadron. Oh, we got this over here, Theaters of War, blah, blah, blah. You know, the UK just is like, or, excuse me, Montreal is just like on rails and oiled. It seems really good. They also mentioned a rework to Loreville, and I'm usually not big on the rework stuff this long. You know, it's been a while. I think we need other things done probably instead of going back and reworking things, but I don't think that's necessarily how an active game development situation works. You know, you keep bringing your older stuff up to the standards that you're getting things to for the final release, right? If any landing zone needs it, it's Hurston, and for the reason why I'm like really okay with it is they mentioned like building interiors and like possible gameplay there as well, which is important. We need those things at landing zones, right? Then the Sandbox 1 team, they started talking about work on Pyro Outposts. And guys, I don't like putting too much into the Pyro updates. I'm just not going to do it until we hear more about server meshing's progress. CIG is pushing Pyro as a narrative, and until we know that we're going to get it in our hands and it's not just a CitizenCon demo thing that they're pushing for, it's really hard for me to get excited, but I really hope we get it. The more I think about Reputation, the more I think about Star Citizen, the more I realize why Pyro makes sense to go into next, and I really hope we get it, but I just cannot be disappointed again. It's just, that's where I'm at with this. Systematic services and tools. The thing that sticks out the most to me here is support for selling. We haven't seen much on that yet in terms of like detailed discussions about its implementation into the game, but I hope we see it soon because I have no, where is Evocati? It's March 6th, the recording right now. It's March 7th when this comes out, and I haven't heard anything, so it's getting kind of late in the month for this kind of stuff, right? And that can be a whole nother rant that I'm not going to go into. UI, progress is being made on the new star map, which we are all patiently... Who am I kidding? We're not patiently waiting for this thing. We need this thing really bad, and I hope it fixes the basic functions that, for like route mapping, that have just gradually broke over time. And yeah, I hope that's a resolution to that, but again, not holding my breath on that. In general, hope it's just better and easier to use, right? Because I imagine for a new player, it's kind of hard to work around. The visor is also being moved to building blocks, which is great. Any additions for flight UI improvements, things like that, are always welcome, right? And then the last is AR markers, which are also very welcome. For me, I hope this is the beginning of the addition to things like new mechanics or actual just implemented mechanics for things like parties and orgs to have a little bit more functionality. I think the UI is a important step to that, and hopefully it leads to that at some point. I don't expect that anytime soon, but it is a step towards that no matter what. Vehicle tech. Not a lot of exciting updates here, but there are some key ones. Not like, when I say not exciting, like no grand woo wow things. They mentioned network sync again. That is big. And then elevators. Anybody who spent time at Grimhex knows that they are hell, and any time spent working to diagnose the issues or fix them quicker is better. And then lastly, Vfx Hull Stripping is the big focus here. Yeah, it's actually happening. We're not getting salvage, but Hull Stripping and the first part of salvage is really in progress based on these reports. Now, this is what I wanted to talk to you guys about in the intro. I skipped quite a few things in this monthly report. I started making these videos to force me to follow the project more closely and be up to date on everything that's going on all the time, so I can be more knowledgeable on my stream. That's why I did these. I never made these for anyone other than myself. But I personally cannot get excited about the game development side of Star Citizen. It's just not something that interests me. It never has, and it interests me less than it ever has before. I get excited for the game updates, the Star Citizen updates, not development updates. But since I started making these videos, they aren't just for me. You guys have been commenting like crazy over the last 6 months, let's say, about how much you like these videos and how important they are to you to follow Star Citizen's development. And I feel like I'm doing you wrong by not touching on graphics and certain elements of the monthly report that I cannot help explain what is going on and how they could affect you playing the game. So I ask you this. Comment below. Maybe I'll make a poll later. I'm not sure. Do you want me to go line by line on these? Because the monthly report is the only thing that Star Citizen puts out that is indicative of the progress that is going on with the project. It is the only thing. The roadmap update does not tell you that the ship that you like moves from white box to gray box. It just doesn't. ISC does, and the monthly report does. Those are the only ways to see actual Star Citizen progress. And I don't know, maybe the monthly report deserves a separate video. I have Wednesdays off. I don't work Wednesdays. I can make another video Wednesday night after my wife goes to sleep, like I'm doing right now. I could do this, but I also have a second channel where I react to the monthly report live. So that could be our monthly report update, and I can skim through it in this and just give you the highlights. Let me know in the comments below, what do you want? Because my highlights might not be your highlights. And that's the disconnect here, right? Is you may be interested in something that I skip because it doesn't interest me. So let me know in the comments below. It's actually really important to me what you guys think on this, and I'm going to shape these videos going forward through those comments. Because if it was up to me, I would just ignore everything that was game dev and focus on game. But it's not up to me anymore. So let me know. Moving on to Roadmap Roundup, they added something to release view, and it was River. River's tech was added to for 3.17, but I don't want to touch on this too much because we'll do it in the video updates. What I will say is this aspect of Star Citizen is on overdrive, absolute overdrive. The art side is amazing. And the devs should be incredibly proud of what they've done. Absolutely. But at the same time, as a gamer, somebody who wants to play video games, it is so hard to appreciate these anymore when it feels like so little of the gameplay side is even being worked on or prioritized. And I totally understand that somebody who works on Rivers is not the guy who's going to make the gameplay. I get that part. You don't have to write that in the comments like you guys did on the second channel. I understand. The hard part is getting excited about something like this, which looks really great, when the thing you're excited about has just been pushed and pushed and pushed down the line for years. And that's just where I sit with that one. Then things added to the progress tracker are something that I can get excited about, and it's the dynamic mission system. And it appears to me that delivery missions may be the first thing that we see here, because they mentioned distance traveled. And I've had conversations with Luke Presley and other members of his team about these missions years ago. I think it was years ago. It was 3.11 the last time we talked about them at any length on my Twitch stream about it. This was so long ago. And they mentioned like wanting to put that in and have the distance traveled determine the amount of payout on those delivery missions. And that would be cool, right? Because, you know, fuel will obviously play into it and stuff like that in the future. And yeah, I don't know. One can hope that these will be pretty cool, but another note is that Quantum still is not going to be hooked up to these. So I don't really understand how it's going to be dynamic. It just might be random instead of dynamic to start. We certainly need to hear more about this in the future, but, you know, work is scheduled up to CitizenCon, so we may hear about it then. It ends right before October, and CitizenCon time is October, so maybe that will be a big part of what they show at CitizenCon. We'll have to see. Then moving on to ISC and video updates, a river featurette. What has changed, basically, since the last time we saw rivers?
Since this time last year, we started to take rivers from what was a pretty tech demo to something we could release. We thought we were ready to put this out in 3.16. We were pretty happy with what we had, but we still needed some more changes to bring it ready to put out into the PU. We started by doing a refactor all of our object scattering so we could have far more power and far more performance when we're distributing objects across the planet. One of the biggest things I wanted to improve as well was to increase the density around the rivers, but without increasing the global density of our objects, this was going to be difficult. One of the major things that we had to add was dressing presets, which allow us to add specific objects around locations like rivers. And we also had to build the river mesh from the ground up, which involves spline mesh building, which took a long time.
Honestly, that's a lot of stuff, and I even cut out a bit of the technical stuff, but the main thing that stuck out to me was that if he wanted to add more trees to a river, he couldn't add more entities, so he had to figure out a way to do it. And it's clear that CIGS found their limit to entities in an area, on a server, whatever, but yeah, like the servers can't take any more than they already have. And that may sound like a bad thing, and it is, but it also breeds creativity for out-of-the-box thinking to create solutions that achieved a goal for a river that looked like this. I just wish it was applied to gameplay, but, you know, the world's not perfect and we can't always get what we want, right? So that is cool, and I think the guy deserves props. He did a great job, you know, and we'll leave it at that. But what are we going to do with the rivers?
As of 3.17, you may now walk down into rivers and oceans as long as you are wearing a helmet. You can now drive gravlev bikes over both oceans and rivers without just falling through and exploding. We also have harvestables around the river's edge for you to explore and collect. We also did a rework of our water caustic system, meaning that there are water caustics thrown by the river and its basin, both onto objects above the water like your ship or trees or rocks, and onto the surface below.
I vaguely remember swimming being on the roadmap, but I guess this is better than dying when you touch water. The gravlev is cool. I can see racing being a thing because a river has a start point and an end point. So racing down the river is... I could see myself doing that. I love racing, and I've missed Star Citizen racing so much since the flight model has changed. I just haven't gotten into it since, and maybe this will be my way back in. But the harvestables was where things might eventually get interesting. They aren't now because I don't think they'll function really outside of selling. We don't take harvestables and turn them into something else yet. But that harvestable that they did show, I believe heals you. At least it did at one time. I don't know if it currently functions, but it has at some point. So there's potential here, right? Then they went into the reputation feature, and I truly believe, and I've said this so many times, but in case you haven't heard it, ship sales have gone much further than anyone expected from the early days of Star Citizen's development, right? Progression through ships no longer exists. Everyone's starting point could be the end point, so it doesn't really make sense to use ships as your main progression in the game. Reputation seems to be the response to that shift in Star Citizen's funding drives, right? Their development is still development is still part of their funding. So that shift in their development is causing this shift for reputation probably. And I don't, who knows if this was ever intended in the first place, but this is the next big thing that is coming.
We're going to be looking to have reputation start driving hostility. So essentially how NPCs react to you and how you see them. As you become more and more friendly, build up that affinity with NPCs of a certain organization, they will begin to shift their opinion of you. You can actually do missions or content for Ninetales, and if you get to a certain point in their bar, they will stop shooting at you and start just letting you go by, and then eventually even start protecting you. By the same measure, if you start attacking law enforcement or committing too many crimes, after a certain point, Crusader Security is going to start hunting you down and attacking you on site instead of waiting for you to commit a crime.
Like right now, it just seems so odd that you could take out 20 people at Jumptown with an A2 bomb, spend 5 minutes hacking away your crime stat, and you're treated like as if it never happened. The one thing I've always wanted to see is that the choices that you make in-game matter, but matter longer term than just hacking your crime stat away. Will this be in 3.17, though?
In 3.17, these changes are going to be largely invisible to players. It's really more about, at this point, giving the feature and the tools to our developers so that we can continue building the content that our players and our developers really want in 3.18 and onward. This content will enable us to, for instance, in Xenothreat, make it so that you can actually be on the side of the Xenothreat instead of just trolling other players. In addition, for Jumptown, this will help us to sort of patch some of the holes where players can exploit the system by grabbing a quick crime stat after they've already pulled out their packages and not have to actually fight people in order to get their drugs. This also enables us to take a lot of our existing content for the lawful side and make criminal missions, so that there is actually content in the game for criminals to do in the long term, not just with these events. And of course, with additional dynamic events rolling out in the future, we can start building with this in mind from the start. This feature will allow us to say that this event is going to have this faction versus this faction, and players will be able to be on those sides in a much more permanent and invested fashion.
I have a minor concern here, but there's a lot more things that I actually love. For the concerns, we've heard this song before. We're making the tools for designers to be able to make content, and I'm not sure if they know, but there are very few people using the tools that are being made to make this cool gameplay scenarios that they always mention here. They're all on Squadron 42. So until we see the design from Squadron 42 come over to Star Citizen like they said may be happening at some point this year, it's just kind of like when you hear those things. But I absolutely love the idea of future events that they mentioned. Choosing a faction seems so cool. Feeling ownership over the outcome of these events, other than just kind of being a part of them, is big to me. And I'm sure, I actually think that they can achieve that, because it's literally just setting teams and you choosing a side, and the teams being balanced is probably pretty important, right? But the little things like that are the purpose that I look for and what I find fun in games. You may not, and that's okay. Let me know in the comments below. But that's what I love, and that's the thing that I really am sinking my teeth into with the reputation system. Now, for other updates, Xenothreat Debrief, these are becoming more regular, which is cool. Link in the description if you want to check out the full image. Loremakers community questions. I didn't see too much to comment on here. Sometimes there's really cool stuff there. The top question was like, what does Orison smell like? So enough said on that one. Subscriber armor, the $10 armor looks pretty basic. The $20 subscriber armor is definitely the Test Squadron bait armor, and the purchasable armor looks pretty cool. It's like blue and white, but this is your basic kind of big boy heavy armor look. They're all starting to look the same. The helmet looks a little bit unique. And then lastly, the sneak peek is, again, like I said earlier, Pyro stuff is just not hitting it for me right now, like the way a Stanton update would, that I can actually play, you know? But these are an update to the stations that are going to be in Pyro, these like piracy or rundown type looking stations. So yeah, and that'll do it for this week. So again, that very important question on how we're going to go and deal with the monthly report on Week in Review going forward is super important to me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And yeah, thanks for watching. Leave a like I just asked, comment down below, and subscribe if you guys haven't yet. And yeah, stop by my Twitch stream and let me know how you guys are doing. You guys are so awesome. You stop by and tell me how much you like the YouTube videos all the time, and I appreciate it. So it really gives me the motivation to do these. I'm doing them at night now because it is so hard to do it on a Monday morning before I have a very long work day. So it's actually affected me at work pretty poorly. So I'm trying to do them at night. Hopefully the quality of the videos goes up because of that. So thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you all next week on Week in Review. Bye-bye now.